He is supposedly blind. I say supposedly because the dude's ears turn crimson and his nose start leaking. Something? Whenever I'm prancing around in my, less is more attire. It's like a bizarre, gory version of a mood ring. Anyway, I'm doing my usual apartment catwalk. You know, the one where I pretend I'm Naomi Campbell, even though I'm more like Naomi Campbell's slightly less successful cousin twice removed. He's chilling on the couch, Mr. Zen, except for the whole ear and bleeding thing. Then, I hear it. His inner voice, and it's not exactly the, ooh, Sora, you're radiant type of inner voice. Nope, it's more like, her waist looks so fine, and those legs, I bet they'd look fantastic draped over my shoulders. I nearly choked on my organic, fair trade, locally sourced air. Stop, I yell, lunging at him like a crazed cat lady. My heart is doing the tango, and not the sexy kind. But let's rewind for a bit. I'd just gotten back from a nightclub. Research, darling. All for research. And I was in no mood for this. Just then, my father, the human embodiment of a used car salesman, walks in. Arms crossed, Cheshire Cat grin. I have good news, he chirps. Oh, joy, I mutter. Is it that we've finally found a buyer for my extensive collection of slightly used lip gloss? Better, he says, with the kind of gleam in his eye that usually precedes disaster. The company's bankrupt. I stare at him. Dad, are you auditioning for a role in a sitcom? Because this is not funny. He waves his hand dismissively. Don't worry, every cloud has a silver lining. Oh, I'm sure it does, I say, my sarcasm thicker than my fake eyelashes. Is the silver lining that we can now afford tap water instead of bottled? He ignores me. Yuto's family is ready to marry you off. I blink. The what family? You know, the Yamamotos. They have that son, Yuto. He used to go to school with you. The one who recently went blind in that car accident. My jaw drops. You're selling me to a blind man? Seriously? I haven't even had enough fun to qualify for a midlife crisis yet. My mind races. Broken legs? That's the Yamamoto family's reputation. How am I supposed to marry a blind man? I can't even parallel park. 3 days later, I'm being shoved into a wedding car like a sack of potatoes. My protests are muffled by the gag they've so thoughtfully provided. Classy. At the ceremony, I'm standing there tied up like a Christmas ham, while some guy in a ridiculously ornate robe drones on about holy matrimony and forsaking all others. Yuto, my soon-to-be husband, looks like he just stepped out of a GQ photo shoot. Dark suit, chiseled jaw, the whole 9 yards. Too bad he can't see how miserable I look. The officiant turns to him. Mr. Yuto, do you take Miss Sora? I do, he says. His voice is smooth, but there's an edge to it, like a freshly sharpened knife. Great, I think. Handsome is as handsome does. And being handsome doesn't pay the bills. The officiant turns to me. Miss Sora, do you... I don't, I shout, or at least try to, before one of the goons behind me clamps a hand over my mouth. Wonderful, the officiant beams. A match made in heaven. Later that night, I'm still tied up, sprawled across the nuptial bed. Apparently, that's a thing. I curse my father's name until I'm hoarse. Just as I'm starting to drift off, I hear footsteps. Dress shoes on hardwood floors. Click, click, click. I jolt awake. Help! Forced marriage, help! Sora? A voice says. It's Yuto. He's brushing off his cuffs, all calm and collected. His voice is like ice water. What are you going to do? I ask, my eyes glued to him. How is he walking so steadily? Isn't he blind? Yuto, please let me go, I beg. I can introduce you to someone else, my best friend. She's beautiful, she's gentle. Please, I'll beg you. My voice is trembling. He's suddenly very close. I can feel his breath on my face. Even though his eyes are completely black, they seem to pierce right through me. There's something unnerving about him. But, he says, his voice low, we've already had a wedding. He reaches out as if to touch my head. I flinch back. This is going to be interesting. Okay, fine, he says, trying to sound like he's doing me a favor. You can let me go. But, he add all casual-like, your dad's company needs funding, right? I stiffened. Yeah. My heart does a little tap dance. Bankruptcy. That means foreclosed house, repossessed cars, the whole 9 yards. Debts that would take me 3 lifetimes to repay. I shudder. Then a light bulb flickers on. "Oh, just kidding," I chirp, all sweetness and sunshine. "I'm thrilled to marry you, darling. You're so rich." "Yeah, right, I think. I'm just freeloading until my dad gets his act together. Then I'm out of here." I plaster on a smile. "All right then, honey." He flinches. "Don't call me that." His voice is suddenly frosty. "Oh, too bad, honey," I tease. Then a thought strikes me. "Since we're married and all, we need some ground rules," I announce, my voice turning serious. "No touching. I sleep in the bed. You sleep on the couch. There's a guest room at home, after all." He rubs his forehead, looking annoyed. "Fine. You sleep in the master bedroom." The next morning, I wake up and he's gone. How can he work if he's blind? I wonder. Then I'm hit by a wave of heat. I glance at the thermostat. 39 degrees. I frantically search for the remote. "Where is it?" I mutter. "Hey Siri, turn on the AC." Nothing. I'm losing it. In a fit of pique, I strip down to my birthday suit and collapse on the couch. And naturally, I fall asleep. Suddenly, I hear the front door open. Familiar footsteps. I jolt awake. "Wait, don't turn on the light. I'm not dressed," I yell, realizing I'm only in my, well, you know. Too late. The light flicks on. Yuto is standing in the doorway, his gaze unfocused. Oh, right. He can't see. Relief washes over me. I flop back onto the couch. "You're back," I say casually. "Make some food. I'm starving. You haven't eaten all day." He looks uncomfortable. He's avoiding looking at me. How can he be shy if he can't see? A mischievous glint appears in my eye. I pad over to him, barefoot, practically bumping into him. "Honey," I purr, taking his hand and placing it on my waist. "Am I pretty?" His pupils shrink. His face turns crimson. "You're pretty," he mumbles, quickly looking away. "You can't see anyway," I say with a smirk. It's boring. I turn and walk away. "Can't see?" I hear him say behind me, his voice puzzled. "Who told you I can't see?" He pauses. "Yes, I lost my sight in the accident." "Well, get it fixed." I toss over my shoulder as I head upstairs to shower. Afterwards, I think about putting on a robe, but then I remember. No cameras. Blind husband. Sleeping naked is just too comfortable. I saunter downstairs and find Yuto sitting on the couch. "The AC," I complain. "I can't turn it on, it's too hot." No response. I look down and see him sitting there, silent. His ears are bright red. He's not looking at me. "Can't you hear me?" I ask, reaching out to grab his collar. And, wouldn't you know it, fresh blood starts gushing from his nose. Again? It's like a horror movie directed by a particularly squeamish toddler. Then, I hear it. Should I tell my wife that my eyes are actually fine? The voice is clearer this time. Wait, what? Who's talking? Yuto's mouth hasn't moved. It's his inner voice. But my wife's waist looks really soft. I wonder what it feels like to hug her. My eyes widen. I can hear his thoughts. My wife has long legs. I wonder how they would feel resting on my shoulders. "Stop!" I yell, clapping a hand over his mouth. He looks at me, all calm and collected, but says nothing. "That's right. I know," I mutter, still trying to wrap my head around this. "But how?" I glance at him suspiciously. "What are you thinking about now?" My wife looks cute when her eyes widen. I want to kiss her. I whirl around and catch him sneaking a peek at my lips. Seriously? This is an arranged marriage. How can a total stranger be ogling me like this? And wait a minute, didn't he just think that his blindness was cured? I wave my hand in front of his face. He doesn't flinch. His eyes are slightly unfocused. "Good thing I'm smart," his inner voice whispers. Otherwise, if my wife found out, I wouldn't get to see her sexy figure anymore. Okay, that's it. I'm out of here. I throw a few things into my suitcase and head for the door, but Yuto grabs me from behind, wrapping his arms around me in a hug. "Are you okay?" he asks gently. His voice is so caring, so concerned. If I hadn't just heard his inner monologue, I might have actually fallen for it. His hands are on my waist. I step back nervously. He steps closer. "Sora, where are you going?" he asks. Where are you going? You walk straighter than a zebra crossing, he teases as he fumbles his way toward me. With my back against the table, I yell, "Stay away!" I feel like a trapped animal, and he's the hunter, sharpening his claws. My heart is pounding. I swallow hard. My best friend just had a breakup, I stammer. I need to go comfort her. He tilts his head like he's thinking. But I thought your best friend was vacationing in Florence? I shrink back. Oh, her grandfather graduated. No, it's her dad who's pregnant. I need to help out. Sora? He says softly, now standing right in front of me. He's tall, looming over me. Why lie to me? I can't meet his eyes. I'm afraid he'll throw me on the bed or something. How could I lie to my husband? I mumble, patting his shoulder, which is way too close for comfort. There's really something I need to do. I'll be back in a couple of days. Fine, he sighs. I can't believe it. I grab my suitcase and bolt for the door. Dad, open the door, I yell, no response. Seriously? My dad changed the passcode to the gate. I can't even go home. My best friend's phone is dead. My aunts and uncles have all vanished, like roaches when the lights come on, ever since the bankruptcy news broke. I'm completely alone, hopeless. I drag my suitcase to the curb and sit down, not caring how I look. This is a disaster. Chapter 4, From Heiress to Hair Raiser. Oh crap, I forgot my phone. Looks like I'm officially a wanderer. Great, just great. I can't go back to Yuto's place. That's a wolf's den. Sooner or later, he'll devour me whole. I must preserve my chastity for my future boyfriends, I think sarcastically as I plop down on the curb. Just then, a scruffy little dog trots by, tail wagging furiously, carrying a plastic bag with a loaf of bread. Probably a donation from some kind soul, I think. Stop, I yell. The dog blinks its watery eyes at me like, "What's your problem, lady?" I feel a pang of guilt. 10 seconds later, I'm sharing the bread with the dog. I can't believe I'm competing with a dog for food. Yuto, I mutter bitterly, this is all your fault. My dad doesn't even want me anymore. Tears well up in my eyes. The dog licks my face, as if trying to comfort me. Get lost. I push it away, but the little mutt wriggles back into my arms, determined to stay. Here I am, a fallen rich girl wandering the streets. Finding a job is impossible. I seriously consider getting arrested just so I can get 3 square meals a day. After what feels like an eternity of starvation, I cave. I find a job as a waitress in a dive bar, and naturally, the dog follows me, tail wagging like a metronome on speed. Did you hear? A voice whispers at the bar. Yuto's newly wedded wife ran away. I know, another replies. Yuto's face was as dark as the bottom of a shoe when he heard. Yuto is so good, a customer says, all curious. Why would she run away? Couldn't bear it, I guess, someone chimes in. Poor young girl. Who knows? Another shrugs. But judging by Yuto's expression, I bet if they catch her, she'll be tied up at home. I shudder. Just then, a familiar figure walks into the bar holding a phone. Have you seen this girl? He asks. It's one of Yuto's goons? I immediately stop serving drinks and try to make a discreet exit, but the guy at the booth behind me is persistent. Where are our drinks, waiter? You, the skinny one who looks like a praying mantis. He grabs my arm. Where are our drinks? Why do you look so familiar? Desperate, I kick him in the shins and make a run for it. Sora, I recognize her, someone shouts. Quick, catch her. Yuto will reward us handsomely. Yuto, you scoundrel, I mutter, sprinting toward the narrow back stairs. This is all your fault. I feel like a wanted criminal. Chapter 5. From runaway bride to reluctant something. This stupid, ill-fitting uniform is hindering my escape. I rip off the tight skirt and chuck it aside. Freedom! I continue running down the stairs, but as I turn a corner, a hand clamps over my mouth, and I'm yanked backward. Caught you! A low voice rumbles in the darkness. It sends shivers down my spine. I'm suddenly enveloped in a warm, tall embrace. It's Yuto. I try to shout, but my chin is held firmly in place. Be good, he warns. It'll hurt if you struggle. And then he kisses me, hard. He bites my lip and I'm kissed into submission. I can't even catch my breath. My hands, which had been flailing uselessly, fall limp. Time seems to stand still. All I can hear are our rapid heartbeats and the sounds of, well, let's just say it was a very thorough kiss. Finally, he stops. Our noses are practically touching. He's breathing heavily, tears well up in my eyes. "It's all your fault," I sob. "My dad doesn't want me anymore." He lifts a hand and wipes the corner of my mouth. "Blame me all you want, it's all right. I have you now." His words snap me out of my daze. "Why did you kiss me?" I demand, struggling to break free. "Your eyes were never injured, were they? You lied to me." "So, you found out," he says, glancing at me, completely unfazed. "You pervert," I yell. "My underwear was exposed to you." "So what?" he shrugs. "We're married." "But I don't like you," I protest. "Doesn't matter," he replies confidently. "You'll come to like me eventually." He walks over, squats down, and gently holds my chin. His dark eyes are like deep pools. He loosens his tie, winds it around my wrists, and then, without another word, picks me up. "We're going home." "Wait, can I sit next to the driver?" I ask, trying to maintain some semblance of politeness. Maybe I can still escape. "No, you can't," he says, lowering his head and running his fingers through my hair. He starts to lean in for another kiss. I turn my head away. I sell my skills, not my body. Give it up. "Too bad," he replies, his voice tinged with melancholy. He doesn't try to kiss me again, though. I try to listen for his thoughts, but I can't hear anything. What is this guy thinking? Lost in my thoughts, we arrive back at the house. Yuto carries me, princess style, inside. "Don't run around like that in the future," he says sternly. He pauses. "Your father, don't mention him to me." "Don't mention him?" I shout, getting angrier the more I think about it. Am I even his real daughter anymore? Ever since Mom passed away, he's been unbearable. He even sold me to you. I start sobbing again. Yuto is silent for a moment, like he wants to say something but decides against it. Instead, he pulls me into a hug. "It's okay," he whispers. "From now on, you can try to rely on me." I stiffen. Rely on him? This guy who lied to me, who kidnapped me, who kissed me senseless in a dark stairwell? Chapter 6, The Blanket Monster and the Accidental Cuddles. Rely on you? I scoff internally. I might as well rely on my little dog. At least the dog isn't as twisted as you are, I add silently. But there's no escaping this situation. After my grand adventure as a barmaid, fugitive, I figure I might as well stay at Yuto's. At least there's food and shelter. I make up my mind. If he wants to hug, let him hug. If he wants to kiss, let him kiss. Besides, being held by him is surprisingly comfortable. I drift off to sleep, thinking, I must admit, the man has some serious kissing skills. In the middle of the night, I wake up feeling hot. The AC in the master bedroom is busted. I'll just sleep on the floor, I think. It'll be cooler. 10 seconds later, my back is screaming in protest. I can't take it anymore. I push open the door to the guest room and am greeted by a cool breeze. Ah, comfort, I whisper. "Sora." Yuto's voice calls out from the bed as he fumbles for the bedside lamp. "The master bedroom's AC is broken," I explain. "Let's switch rooms." Before he can object, I push him out of the room and lock the door. "Air conditioning, here I come," I whisper, feeling victorious. But my victory is short-lived. The doorknob rattles. I hear a key being inserted and turned. The door swings open, and Yuto walks in. "Sora," he says. I bury my head under the blanket, pretending to be half asleep. "I'm tired. Stop fooling around. Go back to sleep," I mumble. The bed sinks slowly as he joins me. "Roll over," he whispers. I struggle. How can I sleep with a man? I think. This is my bottom line. But as I continue to wriggle, I realize something. Wait a minute. This is actually quite comfortable. I hook my legs around his waist and snuggle into his embrace like a teddy bear. It feels incredibly secure. I haven't felt this comforted since I was 5 years old. "All right," I mumble, "just one night." And I fall fast asleep, completely oblivious to the smug smile on Yuto's face in the darkness. I sleep until 7 a.m. When I wake up, Yuto is already gone. Chapter 7, the ghost of boyfriends past, and a husband with first aid skills. I wake up feeling surprisingly refreshed. I get out of bed and head outside to walk the dog, play with the cat, and even join the elderly man practicing Tai Chi in the park. "Girl, don't learn this from me," he says with a chuckle. "I'm afraid you'll hurt yourself." I laugh, stretching stiffly. I accidentally kick over a railing, and as I prop it back up, I notice a familiar figure across the street. Tall, slender, dressed in a black windbreaker. It's Kenzo. He's smiling warmly while chatting with an elderly lady by the roadside, but when he turns and sees me, his smile vanishes. My heart starts racing and my feet move on their own. I follow him. "Kenzo! Kenzo!" I call out. He stops reluctantly and glances at me coldly. "What is it?" he asks sharply. I clutch my clothes nervously. "How have you been recently?" "Thanks to you, not bad," he replies, furrowing his brows and taking a step back. "We haven't seen each other in a long time. Can we have a meal together?" I ask, mustering up my courage. Kenzo was my crush for 4 long years. Unfortunately, he always liked someone else. After the college entrance exam, he asked me to deliver a love letter to that girl. The next day, I tried to explain, but she had already gone abroad. Kenzo somehow heard that I had a crush on him, so he assumed I destroyed the love letter. "If it weren't for you, Kana would have stayed," he had once told me. I start to apologize again. "I'm sorry, but I really didn't tear up that love letter." "Enough," Kenzo interrupts coldly. "We shouldn't see each other again." I'm stunned. All I can say is, "I'm sorry, but my words do nothing to prove my innocence." "Are you still holding a grudge against me?" I ask quietly, panic rising inside me. He doesn't respond to my dinner invitation. He just walks away. "About that love letter," I begin, but he cuts me off, his voice cold. "Don't bother." He turns to leave again, and in desperation I reach out to grab his hand. "Kenzo, wait!" "Let go," he says firmly, shaking off my hand as if it disgusts him. I collapse to the ground. He pauses for a moment, looking back at me coldly, before walking away without another word. I sit there for a long time, tears stinging my eyes, until a figure appears in front of me. "Are you hurt?" Yuto asks, his brows furrowed with concern. He squats down, lifts me up, and takes me home. It isn't until I'm laid on the bed that I realize what has happened. "Yuto, why aren't you at work?" I ask, my voice trembling. He lowers his head, gently blowing on my wound. "I forgot my documents," he replies. Then he raises my foot onto his knee, his left hand holding it in place while he applies iodine with his right hand. "If it hurts, you can scream," he says softly. "Why didn't you ask your secretary to come back and get them?" I ask. He doesn't reply, entirely focused on cleaning my wound, his movements impossibly gentle. I stare at him, my heart suddenly feeling bitter. "I didn't destroy that love letter, Yuto," I whisper. "Do you believe me?" He pauses. "I believe you," he finally says. Yuto and I were high school classmates for a year. It was during that time that I had aggressively pursued Kenzo. One time I fell into the water, and someone saved me, but they left before I could thank them. When I woke up, I searched everywhere to find out who had rescued me. An old lady told me it was Kenzo. I guess some things are never what they seem. Chapter 8. The truth hurts, and so do falling phones. From the moment I saw Kenzo's gentle smile, I was smitten. Every morning I'd bring him breakfast, secretly slip him drinks with his name on them. My heart would flutter with excitement each time, but his brother would always tease me. "Look at Sora! What an ugly name!" he'd mock. Kenzo, though, always seemed to see me as just a friend. And then, things changed drastically after the love letter incident. We couldn't even remain friends. I lower my head, feeling disappointed, wiping away tears that aren't even there. Yuto sighs softly and pulls me into a hug. "Sora," he whispers, "what should I do with you?" Suddenly my phone rings. It's my best friend, her voice frantic. "Sora, do you know your dad is in the hospital?" My phone slips from my hands, hitting the ground with a thud. My mind goes blank. Yuto finally tells me the truth. My father has late-stage stomach cancer. He doesn't have much time left. With only a pampered daughter like me, my father entrusted me to Yuto, whom he trusted more than anyone. The company hadn't gone bankrupt. It was temporarily under Yuto's management. I'm silent, too shocked to respond. It isn't until I enter the hospital room and see my father's surprised and helpless expression that reality sinks in. I walk over with a forced smile. Dad, not eating properly got you here, didn't it? That night, I can't sleep. I lie awake, staring into the darkness. Yuto is by my side, holding me close, kissing away my tears. Don't cry, he whispers, comforting me. He encourages me to let the tears flow, saying my father deserves it. My father, the man who never found the right class to attend parent-teacher meetings, who once showed up in the wrong grade, and when he finally found the correct grade, he went to the wrong school altogether. If my mom were still around, she would have scolded him for it. On the day of my college entrance exam, he kept urging me to finish quickly, complaining about the expensive parking fees. He told me not to worry about passing. He'd hand over the company to me either way. Yuto hugs me tighter. Sora, he whispers gently. Every time I wake up from a nightmare, Yuto is always there. Sora, I'm here, he'd say. He'd pour me a cup of hot water, watch me drink it down, and then gently wipe the water droplets from my lips. Go to sleep, he'd whisper, pulling me into his embrace again. In the darkness, I watch Yuto as he sleeps peacefully. His brow furrowed, his face tired from constantly running between the company and the hospital. I wonder if my presence in his life is right or wrong. One day, my dad asks, "How are you and Yuto getting along?" He's leaning against the head of the bed, eating the apple I peeled for him. He looks curious. It's all right, I guess, I reply. You two better hurry up and give me a grandchild, he says, grinning as he hands me a peeled orange. How is that even possible? I exclaim in disbelief. I have great looks and a charming personality. People go out of their way just to win my attention. I stand up dramatically. You don't understand, Dad. Yuto is so overprotective. He's always worried about my safety and never gives me any space. He's constantly hugging me and showering me with affection. It's exhausting. He just doesn't know when to stop. Just as I finish ranting, I notice my dad's amused expression. Sensing trouble, I turn around to find Yuto standing behind me, arms crossed, calmly watching me. Clingy? Always hugging and kissing you? Not knowing when to stop? Yuto echoes. I chuckle awkwardly. I'm just messing with my dad. That night, when we get back home, Yuto holds me down on the bed, kissing me as I laughingly protest. I was just joking, Yuto. Let go. As my father's health gradually improves, he mentions that if I genuinely don't like Yuto, he can find someone else for me. I hesitate before replying, let's discuss it later. Chapter 9. The truth will set you free, and maybe land you a husband. One day, while I'm out picking up medicine for my dad, apparently not eating properly has dire consequences, I bump into Kenzo. Are you okay? Are you sick? I rush over, wanting to grab his arm, but he pulls away. Sora, I don't want to say this a second time. My matters are none of your concern. Stop coming to me, he says coldly, turning to leave. Just then, a hand pulls me back. Sora, stay here, Yuto commands. He strides up to us, phone in hand. He plays a video in front of Kenzo. It's surveillance footage from our school days, showing Kenzo's friends rummaging through my bag and tearing up the love letter. The source of all misunderstandings revealed. Yuto puts his arm around me. Sora and I are already married, he says firmly. She came here to clarify the misunderstanding. If you don't believe it, then you're just a fool who's easily misled. Kenzo's whole body trembles. I believe you, he finally admits. The truth, delayed for almost 10 years, has dawned on him. Sora, he stammers apologetically, I'm sorry. His late apology feels tiring. Let's still be friends, okay? He asks, his voice filled with regret. He tries to reach out, but Yuto pushes him away. I told you, we're already married. She's my wife now. With a bowed head, he adds, let's go. I stare at Yuto in disbelief, my heart pounding. When we get back home, the realization hits me, and I turn to thank him. Thank you, I say quietly. No need, he replies, glancing at me. Unexpectedly, he pulls me close, lowering his head to kiss me. Consider it a gesture of appreciation, he whispers. I feel a sudden sting in my chest and push him away. I'll go back to my room, I mutter, retreating. Oh no, I think I've fallen for Yuto. Later that night, I text my best friend excitedly, sharing my thoughts. Sometimes he's so handsome and authoritative. I gush. But then, as I'm texting, I see a message pop up in a group chat with my name mentioned. My heart skips a beat as I click on it. Wasn't Sora the one who fell into the water before? Yeah, she said Kenzo saved her. But the conversation continues, and my heart sinks. My grandma turned out to be mistaken. She saw Yuto at the hospital today and mentioned that he was the one who saved a girl who had fallen into the water. Suddenly, everything becomes clear. A deep sense of absurdity and something else washes over me. I had liked Kenzo for 4 years, believing he was my hero, but it was all a misunderstanding. It was Yuto all along. How intertwined our destinies were from the start. A wave of clarity sweeps over me as I realize that everything had been wrong. I had pursued the wrong person. In reality, it was Yuto who had been there all along. Could I now truly start liking Yuto? Absently holding a stuffed toy, I watch as Yuto walks out of the bathroom, fresh from his shower, shirtless. I steal glances, feeling awkward. If you want to look, just look openly, Yuto says as he dries himself with a towel. He throws it into the laundry basket and adds, "Why peek when I'm right here?" I turn away without a word. Yuto climbs into bed and moves closer. "Are you mad?" he asks softly. "No," I say, suddenly feeling restless. "Why are you always so good to me?" I ask, my voice barely a whisper. "You're my wife," he replies, hugging me from behind. After a long silence, I turn around and kiss Yuto's cheek. As I try to pull away, the sound of his heavy breathing stops me, and I pull him into a deeper kiss. "Why are you so forward today?" Yuto asks, his voice low and husky. I say nothing, just turn around and straddle him. "Don't speak, just kiss me," I whisper. He's taken aback. "Sora?" he says softly. The air between us crackles with a tension thicker than my dad's sarcasm. Later, as I'm luxuriating in the bathtub, because, hey, a girl's gotta pamper herself, I exclaim, "Yuto, what did you eat to grow this big?" He chuckles, rubbing my head gently. I burst out laughing. "Dad, do you think if I tell Yuto this, he'll want to kill me?" My dad, who's now miraculously recovering, turns out having a reason to live does wonders for your health, just laughs. "How petty. Bring some fruit to visit your old man and tell him what's on your mind." I hesitate. "Dad, actually, I was going to set up a marriage for you back then." "Ah, yes," he says, casually munching on a banana. But Yuto intervened. He said he had secretly admired you for a long time. I'm flabbergasted. "What? When?" My dad shrugs. "He told me he'd had a crush on you since high school. He called you his little son, someone who brought positivity into his life. He sounded a bit formal, but I could tell he was sincere. He even promised to love you forever." He continues eating his banana as if he hasn't just dropped a bomb on me. I can't believe what I'm hearing. But I trail off, unsure of what to say. My heart feels like a soft, sour fruit, thick juice dripping down inside me. Secretly in love with me since high school, it all started when Yuto transferred to my school. I had been pursuing Kenzo so aggressively back then. Had Yuto seen it all? How much must his heart have hurt? I rush back home, waiting anxiously for Yuto to return. As soon as he walks through the door, I hug him tightly. "What's wrong?" he asks, confused. I don't say anything for a long moment, just hold on to him. Finally, I speak. "I'm sorry for running away before and making you search for me for so long." He smiles and pats my head. "It's not your fault." "And I'm sorry for thinking that the person who saved me back then was Kenzo," I add. "Stop, Sora," he says, lowering his head and kissing me. "Look, we're together now. That's good enough. As for those years, those misunderstandings, I don't think they matter anymore." He continues softly, "It's okay, as long as you know that I love you." Just then, Kenzo shows up at the hospital, chasing after me to apologize and seek forgiveness. "I'm sorry, Sora. It was all my misunderstanding. Can we still be friends?" he asks, standing in front of me with a bouquet of flowers, dressed similarly to how he had been back then, in a simple white shirt, smiling brightly. But now, I just feel nauseous. It's too late, Kenzo. I'm already married, so no, I say firmly. Since back then you chose to cover your ears and not listen to any explanations, now that the truth is out, what's the point of uncovering your ears again? Sora, He tries to come closer, reaching out to hug me. I'm really sorry, I say, backing away, feeling dazed. Something I had longed to hear for so many years. I'm sorry is suddenly meaningless. If there were misunderstandings, I don't care anymore. I'm married to Yuto. Don't look for me again, I say, my voice unwavering. Sora, your marriage to him is just an alliance. You can't possibly like him. You liked me for so many years before, right? He asks, still trying to plead his case. I've changed my mind now. As long as you agree, I'll get divorced immediately and marry you. I stare at him, speechless. Some people never learn, do they? Who says I don't like Yuto? I snap back. He's rich and kind. I turn around and notice Yuto leaning against the car door nearby. I don't know how long he's been listening. Our eyes meet, and I quickly look away. What did you just say, rich and kind? He asks with a smirk. My face turns red. Nothing. You misheard. I stammer. Let's talk about it at home. My father's condition stabilizes. In the second month, I bring him a report. A different kind of report this time. A man nearing 60, I see him shed tears for the first time. He hadn't cried when he found out he had cancer, nor during chemotherapy, but seeing me pregnant brings tears to his eyes. I want to pick a name for him, my father says, smiling through his tears. Let's call him Winnie. I remember that Sora must have been a name he picked for me. It sounded like a name that gave you strength, even in winter. Yuto holds me and says, Sora, let's name him Yoshi. A flashback hits me. High school. Yuto, after finishing basketball practice, wiping sweat off with his shirt, sees me smiling as I hand a bottle of water to Kenzo. He suddenly feels thirsty, but refuses all the water offered to him. If I'm not given water, it's fine, he thinks at the time. Right before the Sports Days 1,000 meter race, I hand Yuto back his number tag and wave, cheering him on. Do your best. If you're too tired, don't push yourself. Take a break, I say. He smiles at me. Everyone else told him to fight for first place, bring glory to the class. But unexpectedly, there's someone simply considering his well-being. All right, he says to himself, stepping onto the track, glancing into the distance, the sunlight just right. He's lost in his own thoughts as he runs that race, realizing how small acts of kindness from me have left an impact on him. He remembers all the times I cheered him on, and in those moments, I unknowingly became someone important in his life. As the months pass, my pregnancy progresses, and Yuto's care for me deepens. He's always attentive, making sure I'm comfortable and never lacking anything. My father's condition improves, and I visit him frequently. One day he says, You know, Sora, I think Yuto is a good man. He really cares about you. I nod, feeling warmth in my heart. I know, Dad, I reply softly. Yuto and I have come a long way since the beginning of our arranged marriage. The awkwardness has faded, replaced by understanding and mutual respect. Though our journey has been anything but conventional, I realize that Yuto has always been there for me, even when I didn't notice. One night, as we lie in bed, Yuto pulls me close and kisses my forehead. Sora, do you still think about leaving me once your dad's company recovers? He asks, his voice gentle but carrying a hint of vulnerability. I hesitate. I don't know. He sighs softly, his arms tightening around me. I hope you'll stay, he whispers. Not because of the company, but because I've fallen for you, Sora. His confession leaves me speechless. I had always seen Yuto as distant and cold, but over time his true feelings have shown through. Now, hearing him say he loves me makes my heart swell with emotions I hadn't fully recognized before. I think I've fallen for you too, I admit, my voice barely a whisper. He smiles, kissing me softly in response. As the months pass, we continue to grow closer, our bond strengthening with each passing day. Eventually, I realize that what started as an arranged marriage has blossomed into something real, something meaningful. Yuto has been the one constant in my life, the one who has always cared, even when I hadn't seen it. And now, I can't imagine my life without him.